Howdy, hey, hello, it's McKenna, and this is Munch and Mingle. Apparently, this is destiny, and I use that so many times on these episodes, but this is just me today. I actually recorded this episode last week, and it is supposed to be going up, and I don't have it. I did not save it, and I think it's destiny because I have been, tormenting myself. I just have felt like something was off with that episode. I was like, did I say that? Should I have said that? It was just a weird feeling, but I was still going to post it. And I sure enough went to go look for it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't save it. Okay, there's my answer. So here we are with today's episode. And I'm so grateful for you being here. Hopefully you've been following along. This is episode 3 of Baby Week. And like I said, it's just me today. But we're going to talk about a little birth story. Now, if you've been following me on Instagram, you most likely have heard this. So this will just be a repeat of that. But also there is a little fun project that I'm working on that I will talk about at the end of the episode. So if you can make it through to that, I strongly suggest it. All right. But before we start, continuing on with our baby munchies. This is more of a toddler munchie, but we're still going to use it. So have y'all heard of Pediasure? This is specifically the Grow and Gain with immune support, the vanilla shake. Oh my gosh. I call it our mini protein shakes is basically what it is. But you guys, this is Baker's favorite. We have to tack it down to 1 a day because he would literally sit and drink them all day. But this is just what we like to give him in the morning with his breakfast. And it is the only thing that I can use to have him sit still, because usually if he has normal milk or water, he'll be running around, he'll come take a sip and then he's our very active 18-month-old, exactly what it is. And so in the morning, this is what we use. And this is my connecting time with Baker. I get it for 3 minutes. It's basically what we're down to before he gulps the whole thing. And he just sits on my lap and he's drinking this. And then I usually will just talk to him. I'll cuddle with him. He loves looking at photos of his family, of himself, videos. So we'll just sit there and we'll go through any videos that we have or photos, and I love it. But this is basically, let's just read off the bottle. You've got 27 vitamins and minerals, 7 grams of protein, and 3 grams of prebiotics. Very nice. But it's basically what it says. It's a help for grow and gain. Now, obviously, Baker does not need any help in the gaining department, my little chunk. But I'd like to say, look, he's growing, so obviously it's going to be that. But I just like this. Now, you can buy a jumbo pack of these at Costco. I think it's like $40 for a pack of 24. But like I said, we only do 1 a day. They also have 12 packs, I believe, or is it 6 packs? One or the other at Walmart. They also do come in a powder form as well. But the reason I like the bottle is it's because it's shelf stable. And I love having that easy access. We also do sometimes bring one in our diaper bag for an emergency if for some reason we didn't have water or milk. We have this to give to Baker. So highly recommend it for your toddler. Like I said, my toddler will be a strong advocate for it. All right. Today's podcast, like I said, it's going to be a birth story. And what I'm going to talk about particularly is Beau's. This has been the most talked about, asked about. And when I have Mikkel in September on, it's going to kind of morph into what happened with Beau because they had similar stories. But obviously, just really briefly and quickly about Baker's birth story. Baker's pregnancy was, as far as I know, pretty easy. I just got morning sickness like anyone. I never threw up. That was not my thing. I just always felt like I had to throw up. And I remember once I was telling my mom, okay, mom, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to make myself throw up. And I've never done that. I hate throwing up. But I was to that point that I was like, I just need to feel better. So what do I do? Like, I'm calling my mom to be like, how do I make myself throw up? And she said, McKenna, you can do that. I totally get you want to have that feeling of relief. But I'm going to tell you this. This is not like a stomach flu. You'll throw up. And then in a couple minutes later, you're still going to have to feel like you're going to have to throw up. So I'm just warning you, because that might bring a little disappointment into your life if you figure that out. And sure enough, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do it then. Because if I'm still going to feel like this, then I don't want to have to throw up. So basically, I was sick until 12, 13 weeks. And then the morning sickness finally subsided. I then went into total bliss in my second trimester, as they say. Because I did not feel sick. I could eat again. I had my cute little belly. I was like, this is great. I was totally momming it out, you guys. Just like I talked about on my other episode, like this is when I would sit and watch videos about baby products, videos about babies' nurseries, videos about breastfeeding, videos about sleep training. I was so immersed in all things babies, and that it really became a hobby. So I would just sit there, and then I would go and reorganize the nursery, refold Baker's clothes. Like we had so many clothes already, and this was all before even my shower. So I was excited. I am very much a planner by nature. So I think I had my hospital bag packed it was definitely before third trimester. I think it was the end of second trimester. I was ready to go, and I still would reorganize. And I'm going to hair school on top of all this, but I would find the time. This was my happy place, like just the anticipation. So I was getting so excited. And then it was about the third trimester. They noticed my amniotic fluid was low with Baker. And so basically, obviously, as the fluid gets lower, that pressure can intensify on Baker because he's not floating around. He's getting more compressed. So I had to go in about 35 weeks. I had to go in about twice a week, and they would measure me. I'd do the non-stress test, which, by the way, that recliner was my favorite recliner. I went into this room. They had a beautiful lamp, and they would give me a very, very sugary drink. And I would just sit there with this thing on my stomach, and I would just, I just remember that. That was the best. I was out of hair school. I had graduated at this point, and that was my favorite place to be, even though it's like, we're trying to check if your baby's okay, but I'm like, this is a place I can be to do that. Anyway, so it was I must have been 36 weeks because I only did it for a couple weeks, and right on the day, or no, it was the day before, 38 weeks, Baker wasn't moving as much, and they noticed his heart rate was lower. So that's when they decided, hey, we need to actually go get you induced, and we need to get Baker out. So he came 2 weeks early. We went to the hospital. I had a normal vaginal delivery, had an epidural, and he came, oh my goodness. You think I remember? It was like 2 a.m.? It was early wee hours of March 30th. And I was pumped because my birthday is August 30th. I'm like, oh, we're both going to have 30 babies, like me and Baker. And they put him on me. And you guys, that is when it was just like, it was the weirdest moment. I had so many emotions going, but I was so mad because I wasn't crying, and I just was in shock. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks that I just was like, this is my baby. Oh my gosh, like he's out of me. Oh my gosh, he's right here. And if you see the pictures, like my face is just kind of like stunned. No crying, no cute happy. And I felt kind of bad, but it wasn't until, he did have fluid in his lungs. So they had to take him to the NICU, and he was there the whole time we were in the hospital. But it's when they wheeled me into the NICU, I lost it. And that's probably because hormones are going crazy. Just had this baby. My baby is now attached to this, CPAP machine. And all these other alarms are going off. I'm hearing other babies, and I'm just like, this is not happening. But it became very normal. I mean, he was off. He was doing really good after that first 24 hours, but they still just kept him to monitor him. And then we went home, and we didn't get to take Baker with us, but we did come back the next day, and he was able to come home. And I just kind of explained a little bit more of what was going on with Baker in my last episode, the why we need a sleep routine. So definitely listen to that if you haven't. But that was basically the gist with Baker is once I figured out like what it was having a baby, I was getting more sleep. I felt like my anxiety was going down. I was pretty good. And then he was 3 months and Britton comes to me and says, so I think we need to have another baby. And I look at him, I said, sweetheart, we have a baby. And this is phenomenal because Britton was terrified to get when I got pregnant. He was terrified to have a kid. And that's just because he didn't know what it was like. He never really grew up around babies. But he loves his sons. And especially at this moment, like he loved Baker. So it was just so odd that I was like, you're coming to me telling me we need to have a baby. We just had one and you're wanting another one. And he just was like, I just have this feeling. I was like, well, you hold on to that feeling. Okay. But anyway, I obviously then quickly got the feeling afterwards that, yep, it's time to have a baby. And I just was like, okay, I mean, I guess we'll try. And I knew it's probably going to be like 4 to 6 months. But you guys, I was ovulating right after like I had Baker. And I was like, okay, but sure enough, we got pregnant a month later. So I have a 4-month-old and I'm pregnant. And I just was like, okay, it literally felt like deja vu because I was just doing this 4 months ago. And I was like, okay. And sure enough, I got really sick right in the beginning. Same thing. Just, I don't want to eat, but I felt way more tired. And as someone pointed out to me the other day, they're like, well, you had a baby while you were making a baby, like you had a baby in you, you know? And I was like, yeah, that would probably do it. I was very, very tired. And I was like, how did I do this? Like, how did I go to hair school when I was pregnant with Baker? And I think the reason I could do that is because I had to. I was like, I started hair school and I'm not being a dropout. And this is not anyone who is a dropout. This was just for me. I was like, I know I will never go back. And if I drop out now and I want this, I know I need this. So the first trimester with Baker in hair school was hard, but then I got through, but it kept me busy the rest of my pregnancy. This pregnancy with Beau, I was at home with Baker. So after I ended up getting over the first trimester sickness, I actually then started going to work in a salon. And it was still hard, but I was assisting with my dear friend Mia, who was so great. And so we were just... that was our routine. I was pregnant, but I was still kind of back in the salon. And then I was still at home taking care of Baker. But I noticed in the second trimester, I was in a lot. I mean, yes, I was more tired, but I was like, wow, I'm just a little bit more uncomfortable. And I remember, because I was just under a year ago, my second trimester experience with Baker. And I was like, remember, it was such bliss. Why am I having a hard time in the second trimester? And I remember when we'd go to our appointments, I would tell my doctor, shout out Dr. Dabbling, I think I'm further along. And she'd be like, what? And I was like, yeah. Like, I really think I'm further along because I feel more uncomfortable, like how I was nearing the end of my second trimester into my third with Baker. And she had warned me, like, because you had low amniotic fluid with Baker, you're probably going to have the same thing with Beau. So we're going to have to go right back to the testing you were doing at the end, and you'll probably get induced 2 weeks early again. And I was like, okay, but I think it's going to be earlier. And I was like, and if not, then this baby's huge because I'm feeling uncomfortable. And she would say, well, you just had a baby. It could be your body still recovering from that. And I was like, yeah. And she'd measure me. And you guys, I was right on. Like it was not a bigger baby. I was not looking further along. I was right on. So I was just like, wow, okay. And so I would just kind of leave it as is. And it was, so we got pregnant right around the same time. It was like in August. And in December of 2021, we went to this little meet and greet with Santa in the park. We brought Baker. And we had Britton's parents there. And we get there and all of a sudden I start feeling what I was just like, wow, I'm getting really bad cramps. And it just got progressively worse. And I was doing that thing because I wanted to do this for Baker. It was like, he's still young, but I was like, we got to get a picture with Santa. and Britton's parents are there. So I kind of was just like holding back, but I was like, wow, these are really hurting. Like, and all of a sudden I start looking and I'm like, are these contractions? And I start looking at my clock or my watch, and I like mark and I'm like, wow, these are like 7 minutes apart. And all I could remember is the Office episode when Pam goes in to labor and how Jim's going through the books and it's like 5 to 7 minutes, 6 minutes, different, but still the same, like about your contractions. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm at 21 weeks. I can't be having contractions right now. And so I just ended up like, I'm still trying to like come to try to be a part of the family. But when I have one of these contractions, I like move away and I'm just like grimacing in pain. And finally I tell Britton, we need to go. And we were going to go walk around the park and look at the lights, but I was dying. Like I could barely almost not talk. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So we get in the car. I remember calling my mom and I was like, Mom, what is this? And she was like, wait, what do you mean? And at that point, I think they were like 5 minutes apart. So it was going quicker. And she said, you need to call labor and delivery right now. They'll tell you. She's like, but she was scared with me. She's like, you should not be having these consistently right now. And they just kept coming. So I called labor and delivery, but I was able to like talk through them and I would say, oh yeah, like one's coming, and I could kind of still talk. And she said, McKenna, how much water have you been drinking? And sure enough, we figured out we had just gotten home from the bowl game with Britton, and the water where we were at just did not taste good. So I really did not drink a lot of water. I was drinking like Powerades and other sugary things. And I was like, you know what? I think it is that. And sure enough, she's like, you need to go home. You need to rest. If they keep coming, like come in, but it probably is Braxton Hicks caused by like dehydration. I was like, okay. And sure enough, and we had like Britton's sister on call ready to go just in case. But we went home and we sat and I just didn't move. And like I could feel my muscles tightening, but it definitely, as I started drinking more and more water, it's quickly like stopped. And they like stopped dropping or it started dropping in pain. They were getting further apart. So I was like, okay, yep, it was just that. So from that point on, I was like, never again. I will be drinking gallons of water a day. Even though it sucks to be peeing every hour on the hour, I will do it. So we did. And I just left it up to that. So then comes the beginning of February. Baker was in swim and he had gotten behind in lessons. And so we went to like one swim lesson and it was just awful, you guys. Like he was screaming the entire lesson. And I remember leaving that lesson. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And Britton reminded me like, McKenna, this is our thing. And are we going to let our kids quit? And we haven't really been consistent with him. So what were you expecting? So I was like, okay, yep, we are going to be so consistent before Beau gets here. Beau is due in May, but we knew he's coming earlier. So we'll say April. So we are going to like set 2 to 3 lessons a week and get this over with. So I think we had started 1 or 2 weeks of that. But we then said, okay, you know what? On the off days, we're going to the pool. We need to get in the water with him. So me and Britton went to the rec center on one of those days with Baker. At this point, we had just found a new apartment and we were moving as well because we had stuff in the back. I just remember that. And we get into the rec center. It's like a Thursday afternoon and no one's really there. So we were trying to get a parking spot near the front. If you've been to Provo Rec, we go, we're turning into one of the lanes and Britton's looking left. All of a sudden, there's this car coming from the right. He starts going to turn out. This car is just zooming. I don't know if he saw us or just assumed that we saw him. But sure enough, both Britton and I look right. And it's literally like Britton has to slam on his brakes. And that car kind of swerves around us. But we basically almost got T-boned. And on my side especially. But as soon as we hit those brakes, I went into, oh shoot, there's stuff in the back that's not really sturdy. And we were turning the right and Baker's on the right side. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to fall. So I don't know how, but in the swift moment that I saw the car, I went to go turn to hold the stuff from falling as Britton brakes. And I get like whiplashed forward as I'm turned. And it just basically was like like I could feel it just that like turning and the whipping motion, just like, I don't even know, but you know what I mean? I felt it in my stomach and I was like, ow, oh my gosh. And then that was it. And we're just like, okay, are we good? Everyone's good. So we go to park, just like, whoo, that was close. And I was like, ow, yeah. And I just assumed it was because I was turned, that I was like, oh yeah, just a weird positioning. We get out of the car, we start walking in, and all of a sudden I start feeling a cramp again. And instantly I'm brought back to December and I'm like, no way. So we go in, we get to the family locker room. And at that point, again, I feel a cramp instantly. And I tell Britt, I think I'm dehydrated. And even he was like, you are? Like he knew I was drinking so much water. And that's why I was like, I think I'm feeling those cramps again. And he's like, oh, shoot. And I was like, let's get in. I should be good. I just need to sit and rest like I did last time. So we go into the locker room, we're getting changed, and it's in those family locker rooms. And I just remember I was trying to change Baker and it's on like the little changing table and I stop and I'm kind of like hurled over and Britt's like, are you okay? And I was like, no, like it's hurting again. I really guess I'm dehydrated. And the fact that so like he came to go change Baker then. And I started like trying to change, but even just like lifting my legs out of my pants to then go put it in a swimsuit was causing me so much discomfort. And I just was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like complaining. And he's like, hey, do we need to go home? Because it was just so abnormal, everything that I was doing. And I was like, no, we're here. We know it's dehydration. So we walk out. And if you've been in that family locker room, they have like all these rooms, but then they've got a bench in the middle. I think we barely made it out of the room to the bench and I had to sit down right away. And it was like very like shooting pain. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad. And sure enough, Britton's like, McKenna, are you sure? Like, I'm nervous about this. And I was like, and I was really defiant because in the back of my head, it's what happened in December. I am 27 weeks. I'm not going into labor. No, that's not happening. So I just had to keep telling myself, just like I did in December, this is not me going into labor right now. So we go and I'm just like, let me get through this. We walk out to the pool and they have the little beachfront entry. And I was like, let me just sit down. And oh my gosh. I think by the time from the bench walking in, I could start to feel like, oh shoot, another contraction. Oh, wait, sorry. When I was on the bench, I had my watch on. And I kept it on because I was like, I need to track these. And that's when I had realized from the locker room to the bench, I was like, oh my gosh, these are 2 minutes apart. That's way faster. So from the bench to the beachfront entry, again, it was a 2-minute thing because I'm walking slow, you guys. I'm definitely not walking normal. And I'm like, just, okay, sit down. And I'm starting to freak out a little in my head because I'm like, now this is really an issue. Sit down and I just remember, the pain. Like sitting down made it worse. And I don't know if it's because I had to like bend down to sit on the ground. And I just remember I'm sitting there in the water and I'm like balling my fists. Everything is just tightening in my body. And I see this lifeguard walking by and I just have to like put on a face because I'm like, I am a target. I am a pregnant woman. And if I show any distress, these lifeguards are going to be all over me. So no, I'm not like, let her go on with her day. I'm fine. And even Britton is just watching me like something is wrong. Bless his sweetheart. Like I just kept, nope, I am Pam in this moment from The Office. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go put my feet in the hot tub. Not me get in the hot tub, but maybe that will help me just calm down. Oh gosh, trying to get up was awful. I get up, I walk to the hot tub. Sure enough, contraction starts again. I think I had 1 foot in and I'm like straddling the hot tub. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm just holding everything in me. There's like an old guy in the hot tub and I'm trying to be like, just normal, look away. Don't show him any pain or discomfort. But I'm like, this is clearly not working. So Britton gets Baker and I'm like, no, go swim. I'll go call labor and delivery. I'll go have him, like, we'll go over this again. I go sit on a bench in the pool. Britton takes Baker and then I go call labor and delivery. And sure enough, like they answer and I start having a contraction again. I say, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. I have to take the phone away. Now this was the first red flag because, okay, I guess there were other red flags. This was another red flag is I remember reading once in a parenting magazine or something that a labor and delivery nurse was saying how she can tell the difference between Braxton Hicks and real contractions. She said, with Braxton Hicks, while they still can cause discomfort, you should be able to talk a little bit more through them. With contractions, you should not be able to talk. And at this moment, I could not talk. I had to stop and just focus on like tightening everything in my body. It was hurting so bad. So as I get back on, and I just quickly, and I'm going so fast because I'm like, I know another one's coming. I just said, look, I think I'm having Braxton Hicks. I think it's dehydration. What can I do? Like, that's it. I didn't even tell her really anything, but I just said, I think I did say they are 2 minutes apart. And as she starts to talk, she's like saying something. And I say, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm having another one. One more second. And I put the phone down because I knew I was not going to be able to listen. So I wanted to wait. So I had the contraction. I put the phone back up and I said, okay, sorry, I'm back. And she goes, if this happens for the next 5 minutes, you need to get in here right now. Like, she knew instantly. Those fasted contractions and the fact that I cannot talk, she's like, get in here. So I just was like, okay, obviously I know something's wrong, but I need to go be alone. You know, I've got that lifeguard still circling the little pool and I'm like, she totally knows something's wrong. I got to get out of sight. So Britton is down. It's down in the pool and he has Baker and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to the locker room. He's not looking at me, but he'll look over and see that I'm gone. So he'll know I'm in the locker room. So I go into one of the little family locker rooms and it's, like I said, it's just its own little room. It's got a toilet, a shower. Like it's great. Love the family locker rooms. So I go in there and at this point I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I'm talking out loud. I get another contraction and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just what is going on. Something's wrong. And all of a sudden I hear in my head, my mom. And when I was in labor with Baker and she was helping me through the contractions, she would say, okay, McKenna, when a contraction comes, you're going to bear down and you're going to push against it. Like, that's what's going to help. And I remember her saying that. And then that is what I all of a sudden hear. Ooh, sorry. It gives me a little chills because I know that was not happening by coincidence. All of a sudden I hear my mom's voice and I hear her say, you need to bear down. So I'm going, okay, I just need to push against whatever this is. So I go and sit on the toilet and I feel in that contraction. I'm like, okay, I'm going to push against it. Oh, guys, I'm kind of shaken. I bear down and my water breaks. And it is exactly what you think it would feel like. It felt like there was a balloon inside me and it popped and all of this fluid came out. And I remember screaming because I was in shock. I'm like, well, that's definitely not pee. And there's like, you just hear it. And I'm over the toilet, but thank heavens, but there's so much. And I just, as soon as I'm done, I immediately stand up and I look and I'm like, that's my mucus plug. And that is, hello, for anyone out there, that is what holds everything in. And I'm like, oh gosh, seriously, you guys, I'm shaking. Oh my goodness. So I pull my swimsuit up and I go, okay, I need to go get Britton right now. And I start walking. I just walk out. I think I got 2 steps out and I look and I'm like, wait. And I look down and there's blood coming down my legs. And instantly I go, I need to call 911 right now. This is not okay. So I walk right back into the locker room and I just remember dialing like, am I really doing this right now? Is this happening right now? Oh my gosh. You guys, I talk about this all the time, but for some reason I'm getting emotional because this is what was happening. I started crying. So the dispatcher gets on the phone and I just start losing it. And I say, something's wrong. My water just broke. I'm at the rec center. I'm 27 weeks. I don't know what's going on. And bless her sweetheart. She kept me so calm. She just was like, okay, don't worry. I'm sending paramedics right now. What locker room are you in? And she's then talking to me. Like, this is the crazy part. She is talking to me this whole time. She's like, don't worry. I've already got people sent. And I said, what am I going to do? My husband's out in the pool with my son. I don't know how to go out there. She's like, yep, nope. You're going to stay in that locker room. I'm going to get your husband for you. And as we're talking, I hear through the speakers, Britton Hogan, we need you to go to your wife in locker room number 16. And I'm like, how in the world are you doing that? I found out later from my cousin who's a firefighter that he said they have to go, when they're training, they have to go sit a day with dispatch. And he said most 911 dispatchers are women because they are such great multitaskers. And that's basically what you're doing is she must have had me on mute or something. She was talking to other people because she called the rec center while she's on the phone with me. And I never heard her do that. But she obviously had to, because how would they have known? And I was just so amazed. I was like, yeah, okay. I heard that they just called. She's like, yep, okay, he's going to be coming. The paramedics are a minute out. Like, she was giving me time updates, and she's like, I don't want you to sit down on a toilet. And I was like, no, trust me, I'm standing. And that's all of a sudden when she asked, are you still feeling pain? I said, wait, I don't think I am. Like, I'm not having the contractions. She's like, okay. And she just kind of kept moving on. So Britton comes, he knocks on the door. I open it. And he sees me he just sees me crying on the phone. He doesn't even notice that on the ground, because I only looked at it once. And it was at this point when he walked in that I realized, oh my gosh, there's blood. And he didn't see it because he starts walking in. He's holding Baker. And I have to like point at the ground because he's about to walk through a puddle of blood. And that's when, total and utter shock, his face just goes white. He looks down. It transfers in his mind what just happened. And then he looks up at me and I just see his eyes are watering. And at this point, Baker then starts crying because he sees me crying. And here's me, total mom moment. I forget everything that I'm going on. And I'm like, here, Britt. And I hand him the phone. I was like, I'll take Baker. I'll calm down. I'll calm down Baker in this moment. And so right then, like, the paramedics get there. So they come in and I hand Baker back to Britton, and they're like helping me clean up. And those firefighters are so great. I think everyone this day was just so great because they're trying to make me laugh. They're like, hey, we can deliver your baby if you want to right now. We can deliver him. We just delivered a baby in a bathroom last week. And I'm like, no, it's okay. We can go to the hospital. And so it was so funny. Well, this part isn't funny. They get me on a gurney, and I look at Britton and he's like, it's okay. I'll be right behind you. And I just say, call Mariah, who's Britton's sister, like, so that she can come get Baker, because she was the one living the closest to us. And as I'm leaving, I hear a police officer go up to Britton and says, you need to get to the hospital as fast as you can. And that's when I was like, okay. I also had heard them say like, okay, she's losing a little bit of blood, which I was like, okay. But as they're wheeling me out to the ambulance, which is just so great in all its glory, as I'm on a gurney, people are looking. I mean, it wasn't like a packed house at the rec center, but still, you see a lady leaving on a gurney. You're just like, oh my gosh. I just kept closing my eyes. I was like, I don't even want to see anyone. But at that point, that's when I'm realizing I'm not feeling contractions. And everything that I've heard is when your water breaks, your contractions get harder and faster. Now, at this point, I felt like they were the hardest and fastest they can be. And I will come sooner or later to find out that I was having what's called hypertonic contractions, which are exactly that by definition, the hardest and fastest contractions you can have. And they had stopped. And that's when I was like, something's wrong. And I started saying a little prayer in my head of, oh, okay, Heavenly Father, I guess Beau's not going to make it. Ooh. And I don't know the reasons why for that, but you can't take me yet, because I've got Britton and Baker that I've got to be there for. Oh my gosh. And maybe it's because I really haven't cried talking about it too much, but that's all I was praying. Please don't let me go yet. And I'm so sad that I'm losing Beau, but I've got to stay here, and I know you'll let me figure it out sooner or later why we couldn't have Beau. That's what I had to start telling myself, because at this point, everyone was saying, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. But no one's saying anything about Beau. And that's why I just had to start telling myself, okay. So we get in the ambulance. Like I said, the firefighters were doing really good at keeping me calm and trying to make me laugh. But it was so funny because at one point they kept saying, okay, how far along are you? I said, I'm 20 7 weeks. And they said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 27. And they kept thinking I was hearing them wrong or I was saying it wrong. They're like, no. How old are you? And I said, I'm 27. And they're like, wait, how far along are you? I said, I'm 27 exactly weeks today. And so it was just this whole back and forth. Now it was under a minute drive, like huge blessing that we are right next to the hospital. So they get me into the ER. They wheel me in, they get me up to this room, and they have to like transfer me from the gurney to the hospital bed. And at that point, I hear them again saying, okay, she's losing a little bit of blood. I just still didn't look at this point. I just couldn't even look. And so I'm not feeling anything. And people are, nurses are coming, putting things on my wrist. I'm getting an IV and I'm just like sitting there kind of numb. Just like, okay, I guess I'm going to have a baby today. Like, that's just all I keep thinking is, guess I got to push a baby out. It probably shouldn't hurt too bad because I don't know how big he is, but I'm only 27 weeks. And my nurse is like, okay, McKenna, I'm going to check to see if you're dilated. And I said, okay, which by the way, that is one of the worst things. I hate getting checked for dilation. It's just, ugh. Anyway, so I was like, okay, so sure enough, she checks me and I'm watching her. She's turned to the side and I see, because I'm only seeing one of her eyes, it gets big and she's looking at another nurse and she turns the other way. So I'm seeing her face like just full on big eyes. She turns to the other nurse and goes, so she's a 10 and I can feel limbs. Now, to me, obviously I know 10 is, okay, it's time to give birth, but the part of you can feel limbs. What the heck does that mean? I'm sorry. Are they detached? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? That's all she said. And at that moment, it became like a hive, like a swarm. I guess I could say, like, it became total chaos. People are running in and out and they're rushing around and like, okay, we need to get her into the OR. Like, I'm just like, wait, what is going on? So my nurse comes up to me, like up by my head. And she's like, okay, McKenna, we're going to take you in. We need to go have an emergency C-section. And she's like getting ready to go run back after she's told me that. And I just look at her and I said, nope. And she like kind of has to stop. And she's like, what? I just said, no, I'm not doing that. And she kind of like, McKenna, we have to go do that. And I said, no, Britton's not here. So we're not going. I was terrified. I did not know what an emergency C-section meant. I knew it meant you had to cut me open. Does that mean I'm under? Like, am I going to be coming to? I just was like flashing back to all these like TV shows about, what's that baby show? There's a baby show where they would talk about like births. And I remember always seeing like the wives who had to give C-sections and they weren't like all there. No, I just was not. And so she's kind of like scrambling, like, okay. And I was like, no, Britton's not here. We need to call him. So I don't have my phone. This is when I realized it got left at the rec center through all this. She grabs a hospital phone. Okay, what's his number? So we call his number. And this is why everyone needs to memorize your husband's cell phone number, because thank heavens we did. So we call his number. He doesn't answer. And I'm like, wait, why would he not answer? I was like, well, he has my phone. He didn't, but I thought he did. So we call my phone. No answer. And she kind of is looking at me like, McKenna, like, we have to go. Again, I am not understanding why the rush. But then the on-call doctor comes in and he's hearing me and comes over up to my head and says, he grabs my hand. And bless that doctor, Dr. Reese. I was really sad Dr. Davlin wasn't there, but he was a great second option. Grabs my hand and he's all like, McKenna, we need to have this baby. It's time to go have this baby and you're going to be okay, but it's time to go. And I just like, my eyes started tearing up and I just was like, okay, alrighty. And so we went. Now, it's exactly what you would think, just how they show in the movies. I'm basically going down the hallway. They're rolling me down and I'm just looking at the ceiling and I'm watching the lights just keep passing by. And I'm basically having to give myself a pep talk at this moment to be like, okay, you're going to do this and you have no idea if you're going to be put under or not. You're going to be cut open and you're going to have to do it all alone, McKenna, because Britton is nowhere to be found and you have to go get this baby out. Maybe he'll come in the middle and they'll let him like come in. I just have to trust like I'm going to be okay. And I'm just like starting to get really, really scared. And we turn the corner and I see the OR doors And right in front of the OR doors is one Britton Hogan getting scrubbed up to go into the OR. And I just start crying. I was so relieved. I was so happy. I was like, thank heavens. Oh my gosh. Like I thought I was going to have to do this alone. And so they have to wheel me in. They're like, okay, Britt, she's going to get her epidural. So you got to stay out here. And Britton told me at this time, like they shut the doors and he can just see the little window, but they're shoving all these papers at him, like all these liability waivers, things that he has to sign. And he was getting so mad. He's like, just, okay, I'll sign this, but I need to get in there. And I get the epidural. Oh my gosh, you guys, getting an epidural is bad, one thing, but this time they had me on the bed. And I remember it was totally different. Like it was a normal one with Baker where you're like hunched over and doing it. This one I'm on the bed on my side and trying to get an epidural, which by the way, I'm having no contractions while I'm getting this. So I'm just like, I can feel it. I can feel it like buzzing my spine. Oh, it was awful. And I'm like, how do you hunch over when you're on your back? Luckily, this angel, I say it was my angel. I couldn't see her. Still to this day, I'm like, I'm not even convinced if she was there or not, that she was just an angel telling the anesthesiologist what to do. And I heard it too. Because basically I just hear this like voice say, you need to pull her shoulder back. And all of a sudden he pulls my left shoulder back and goes right in. And I was like, wow, okay. So that was great. They flip me back over. They pull that sheet up that goes right in front of your face. And I'm just looking at the ceiling with this sheet. Like it's like literally tucked right by my neck. And so they let Britton in. He comes, sits right by my head. And I hear Dr. Reese say, okay, McKenna, like I'm pinching you. Can you feel it? And all I say is, well, where are you pinching me? And he's like, yep, I'm pinching pretty hard. So it's obviously working. I was like, well, where was this stuff when I had Baker? Because that epidural, granted, I don't think it was in all the way, took forever to like go. And this one didn't even take a minute. They just chucked the whole thing in there. So I've got Britton and he's just talking to me and I just was like, where's Baker? And he's like, he's okay. He's they're downstairs. He's with Mariah. I said, okay. And I was like, you called your parents? And he's like, yeah, they're driving on the way right now. And I said, okay. So what did my mom and dad say when you called them? And I just look at his eyes. They just get all white. And I'm like, you didn't call my parents yet? And he's like, McKenna, I've kind of been busy. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. And I was like, well, once this gets done, I need you to go call them right away. And he's like, okay. So, I don't even think it was 2 minutes. They had me cut open and they pulled Beau out. They said, okay, your baby's here. And that's kind of all they said. I didn't hear crying. And I just in my head, I was like, well, I wouldn't, right? Because they're so young still. But again, nothing was really being said to us. The anesthesiologist was over my head because I guess I found this out later. He was watching my oxygen and he's like watching my reaction. And him and Britt are talking and I'm just like sitting there. And I notice I start getting really tired. And this whole time I've been really coherent. But all of a sudden I'm just like, I keep stuttering. And he's like, he's like, how you doing? And I'm like, I just need to not talk for a second. I'm just listening to you guys. And he must have been watching me. Like, so I think I was dropping a little bit. Ooh, I'm like realizing that all now that I'm remembering this part. And I just remember like Britton's hand squeeze. It got tighter. So I don't know. I need to ask him if he remembers this or if he saw what was going on. But I still stayed coherent the whole time. I just stopped talking. I got really, really tired. And I just was listening. So I just was listening to Britton talk. And I was just thinking, okay, no one said anything about Beau yet. And then all of a sudden, this nurse comes over. And that kind of like wakes me up, or like I'm sitting here and I can listen. And she goes, I just want to let you know, I have seen many other babies who have come earlier than this one and who are doing great. And I kind of just look at her and I said, wait, is he okay? That was the first time I actually ever asked it. And I was like, I am ready to hear it. Like, is he okay? And she's like, yeah, he's fine. He's doing great. We're coming to get dad to see if he wants to come see him. And I just was like, what? Like the huge relief that I was like, he's okay. So Britton goes over. He takes some photos. This is when Britton says it hit him because he saw how tiny Beau was. So Beau was 2 pounds, 6 ounces. And what had happened is my placenta abrupted. And what we assume was the car accident, or the not car accident, the almost car accident is what like just did it. And my body instantly knew that Beau was in trouble and we need to get Beau out. So that's why the contractions started. They were hypertonic contractions because with a placenta abruption, I kind of talk about this on Mikkel's episode, is your placenta detaches from the uterine wall and blood starts filling in, and your body, or I guess your placenta, is very sensitive to blood. So it was triggering my body that the baby's in danger. We need to get the baby out. So it started the contractions, and that's what opened me so fast. That's why it was hurting so badly and so quickly. It was dilating me to a 10. But what had happened is Beau then got into the birth canal. Ooh. And he was going legs first. And that's with the limbs that the nurse could feel. So what they did with the emergency C-section is they cut me open and they basically had to pull Beau out of the birth canal. So I have a really tiny cut, but it's lower than most because he was already so far down. So he actually got pretty bruised just from the doctor pulling him out because he's just this tiny little thing. And that's when Britton then said, though, like he lost it because he saw him and he just was like, he's so tiny. He shouldn't be here right now. Like he should still be in McKenna. And I think, so we took 3 photos, you guys. To this day, I can only muster the strength to look at one of them because the other 2, it just like, it breaks my heart. It's like he's not supposed to be here. He looks so terrified to be here. And so I have one that I've put in Beau's baby book. That's the only one that I'm like, okay, I can like look at that, but I still don't even, it's very hard for me to look at those photos. But obviously I know they had to get him whisked off to NICU. And I knew, I was like, he's going to be in the NICU for a while. I remember when Baker was in the NICU, we had met families who were like, I've been here for 3 months. And I'm just like, how could you be there? And that's when all of a sudden it was hitting me like, we're probably going to be here for a while. So they're getting me stitched up and everything. They go wheel me off back to my recovery room. And that's when my nurse, the main one from the beginning, who had checked when I was dilated, came in. And she's like, okay, we're going to take you down to the NICU. I just need to go finish up these tests and I'll be right back. And I said, okay. She comes back in, you guys, and she's in full almost hazmat. She's got these goggles. She's got these scrubs. And I can see through her eyes, she's like crying. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? What is wrong with Beau? Like, that's my first initial instincts. She comes over to me and she kind of like puts her hand on my hand and she's like, I'm so sorry that I have to tell you this. First off, you never put it like that way. And I literally say, what's wrong with Beau? And she's like, oh my gosh, no. It's not Beau. It's you. And I was like, what? She's like, McKenna, you have COVID. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I have COVID? I was like, I'm not sick. I don't feel anything. And she's like, I know, we just took the test and it says you're positive. And I was like, wait, what does that mean? She's like, sweetheart, you're not going to be able to go see Beau for the next 10 days. And that's why she was crying. And I start losing it. I was like, wait, what are you wait, what? And she's like, I know, I hate this too. I'm so sorry that I have to come tell you this. So she's like trying to read over the page that's like telling me all the like rules. And she can't even make it through because she feels awful. And I'm just crying. And what I forgot to say is before this had happened, Britton went down to the NICU. They took Britton down and he was able to FaceTime with me on a doctor's phone because I didn't have my phone. So I was able to kind of see him through that. And Britt was able to go and see him again. But then we had come back and that's when she said, so you guys can't go see him. Britton has to be isolated from you. And Beau is now going to go be isolated in the NICU. And it just, oh my gosh, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was just like, of course, why not? Let's just have that hit. So they're like, she's going over the rules. And that's when she was like, this doesn't make sense. She's like, because for Britton to be able to go see Beau in 10 days, he has to be isolated away from you. And Britton even said, that's not happening. He's like, and she said, I don't understand how it could be because McKenna, you're going to be home. And how are you? You can't be alone. You're barely going to be able to move. So she just said Britton would have to wait like another week past me because he would be around me. And he said, yep, that's fine. Like he just was like, I'm not going to just leave her alone. So the only part he did have to leave me alone is when we got into my normal room. That's when they said, Britton, you either have to stay here and you two cannot leave this room, or you have to leave and you can't come back till you come to pick her up. And obviously that was the option we were going to choose. Me and Britton had planned from the beginning that I heard this from a mom, and I think it's the most brilliant idea, is that when she has had her babies, her husband's obviously there, but at night he goes home. He goes home and sleeps so that he can sleep in a normal bed, but also for their kids, because she's like, most of the time kids are with family, but during the night, that's when we've seen most kids have issues if we're both at the hospital. And so me and Britton had made that point, like even though it was just Baker, we're like, no, we will keep the routine. And if Britton's there to do it, like it will just help Baker be calm. And so we had already planned that. But then with this, it's like, okay, I guess you're going to just go home and not come back and I'll just be here on my own. And that is where you guys, so I was in the hospital then for, I keep thinking 4 days. It wasn't like a fourth full day. It was like a half of that fourth day that I left. But those days I was literally in an isolation room. When nurses came in, they had to completely scrub up every time. Like I felt so bad for them, and I never felt sick. So I guess I was asymptomatic, but I would like to point out that a couple days after this, the state of Utah came out and said, we're not going to be using rapid tests anymore because they are we're getting a lot of incorrect ones back. And I would like to say, I think I was one of them because I never felt sick. I just was like, what? And one of those tests that I took was a rapid test. So I don't think I was really positive, but they still had to take precautions. Britton never got sick. Baker never got sick. Beau was in the NICU. I think it was 24 hours that they had to have him in an isolation room, and he never tested positive. I just was like, this is, well, but I still had to stay there the whole time. So I never was able to go see Beau in the NICU until after that. And at this point, while I'm just sitting in my room, I was fine until after the 24 hours. Then I started feeling all the pain. And I will tell you, I will go through vaginal birth with no epidural 10 times before I go through another emergency C-section. Recovery, I mean, like I said, I didn't feel anything during the C-section, but the recovery alone is awful. I found out that when you have a normal C-section, and most of the time you guys will hear this, a normal C-section can take up to like 45 minutes to an hour, because when they cut you open, they're going through each layer delicately. They're pushing things aside gently. It's a very like slow timed process. An emergency C-section, Beau was out in 2 minutes or less. So they just cut through everything, shoved it, moved it, pulled it out. So yeah, recovery was just a little bit harder, and I was feeling it on top of all the hormones I was going through, not being able to even feel like I had my baby. And that's where I just was like, yes, I had a baby. I know he's here, but I haven't got to see him. I didn't even get to hold him. I didn't even see him pulled out other than the pictures and the video, but I'd never seen him in real life, clearly. Like, so I'm just having all those emotions, and then the pain. Oh, the pain. I kept thinking it's lower, right? Nope. Your stomach muscles were cut. And so any movement, I could not get comfortable. To try to sit myself up was agonizing. So I think they even had my catheter in like longer because I was not going to be able to stand up. But I remember the first time, and they do this when you have a baby, the nurse comes to help you, go use the bathroom. All your dignity is lost at this point. And I didn't care because I already went through this with Baker. I was like, I'm going to have to use the bathroom. And I knew the great part of that is, well, I'm not going to have to deal with like necessarily recovery downstairs, it's more just my stomach. So I knew going to the bathroom was going to be fine. It was the getting to the bathroom that, oh my gosh, I had 2 nurses, like one under each arm, and I'm just shuffling, and it hurt so bad, you guys. And they know, that's why they're there. They totally get it. But it was just, I was like, I can't do this. I can't lift up. And thank heavens those beds are like the ones that lift you up, because I don't know how I would have made it. So I'm feeling pretty down about myself. I'm feeling like I can't move. I've had all those emotions. And then on top of that, because I was feeling so guilty, I did not have anything ready. I did not have my hospital bag ready. I was still a week earlier than what I had. Like I had mine, I'm pretty sure, ready by week 28 for when I was pregnant with Baker. So I was like, geez, McKenna, why didn't you plan? Like, you're usually so good at this. Why didn't you have it ready? Because Britton had one shot. They allowed him because I had nothing. I was in my swimsuit and that was it. They said the hospital will allow Britton to leave and come back to give you a bag. So I had to call him on the phone. I think Mariah was there at one point too. So she was trying to help. And I'm just like, okay, I think I need this and this and this. Of course, things were forgot. Of course, I forgot to say things or needed things. I didn't know how long I was going to be there or what I was going to be doing. So I had like half of my normal things. And I think it was by day 2, I was like, I just feel so gross. I hadn't showered the day of when Beau came because we were going swimming. So I was like, yep, we'll go swim. I'll then can shower when I get home. Because it was the morning-ish. And so I was like, yeah, it's fine. So I hadn't showered then. Just went through a major surgery. Still hadn't showered. And now it's like we're going on day 3. And I'm like, I feel gross. I feel so gross. I need to shower. But then I knew I didn't have some of my things in my toiletry bag. So I just was like, hey, and by the way, the nurses became my best friends because that's all who I had. The nurses and Golden Girls. That's all I remember about, and Cake Bites. Because the cafeteria had those are the 3 main things I remember about this day is the nurses. I would always watch Golden Girls because I would be like constantly going through the night, so that's what I would keep on during the night because I was having to be woken up for meds every 2-3 hours, and then the Cake Bites. But I remember I was talking to one of the nurses and I said, look, so it's shower day finally. I need to just shower everything. I need to wash my hair. I need to do all this. And I think I've got shampoo and conditioner. I've got face wash. I've got a toothbrush, but I don't have deodorant. I don't have face lotion. Do you have those? And I remember the nurse was like, so McKenna, we have like the deodorants. They're the old, super janky roll-on ones. And at that point I was like, oh, that's fine. I'll take it. But then she's like, we don't really have face lotion. Now, coming from me, who is a skincare guru, I kind of just like screamed in my head. I was like, you don't have face lotion. My skin, you guys, breaks out with any normal thing. So I knew when she's like, we just have normal lotion, I was like, oh my gosh, my skin is going to break out so bad. But I was desperate because I knew at that point my skin was so dry. And I knew getting out of the shower, it was going to make it even more drier. So I just had to take whatever. And I'm still feeling all those emotions, but I was like, let's just do it. Get in the shower. That helped. But as I sit back, I was like, my face is burning because of that lotion. And I just was like, another nurse had come in and I was sitting there. I was like, has no one ever done this? Like make like little toiletry bags for moms who have to come and stay longer. And she's like, no. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And she's like, I think it would be really helpful. But I was like, no, I'm really going to do it. So anyway, fast forward, we get out of the hospital. Obviously, we don't take Beau. He's going to probably be there until his due date. When I did finally get to go see Beau, it had been 10 days. And you guys, when I hold him, he's just this little guy. Oh, and it was that same thing. And I was just stunned. I was like looking at him. I was like, you shouldn't be out of me yet. But it was the weirdest, like bittersweet feeling. I'm so happy you're here. You're alive. But you should still be inside me. And you clearly can see them. I'm like, yep. You look like a baby who should still be in the womb. You were so tiny. And bless, again, the nurses in the NICU, even just as great as my, labor and delivery nurses. They were so sweet. And bless little Beau. I mean, he's still the chillest little baby. But they were like, we love Beau. Like, we want to, they're like, please, can we be your primary nurse? Which we find all about that. Like, that's a thing. And I loved that because it just helped me to be like, I know these nurses. And it wasn't until I think it was getting closer to Beau leaving that I had a nurse that she had been with me in labor and delivery. And she had been moved down for the NICU for that day. And I was talking to her and I was like, hey, can you tell me something? Can you tell me what happened that day? And she's like, you mean when your placenta broke down? I was like, yeah. And I had already known what, like I said, the placenta abruption, my dear sweet doctor, Dr. Dabbling, had come and seen me twice while I was in the hospital. Bless her. So she explained what had happened with the placenta abruption. She was pretty sure. She's like, almost car wreck is probably what happened. She's like, but it also could be that, you did get pregnant so soon after. And at that point, she had told me, we don't know if you're going to be able to have any more kids, because this was a pretty big trauma. And I accepted it because I was like, I have Beau. I have 2 beautiful boys. I'm good. So as time went on, I went to go get my checkup, and Dr. Dabbling had said, no, you know what? You're great. You're going to be able to have kids again. However, you are not allowed to get pregnant for the next 2 years. She's like, you have to give your body a rest. And not this, you're getting pregnant and you're having a baby in 2 years. No. 2 years, you are not getting pregnant. So I got an IUD put in, and I have felt very content with that. I think I talk about this in another episode, but me and Britton have both felt the need that there is at least one more. I don't know. It's so hard to say, like, who knows, but we have both gotten very strong promptings that there is another one who is very anxious to get down here. But I have said I probably will need to go to therapy before that happens again. I got therapy after Beau, but to go through that again, because Dr. Dabbling said, just like before, if you have a high risk pregnancy before something happens, there's a higher risk that it's going to happen again. So that I would probably have another placenta abruption. And I'm sorry, that's a lot to go into pregnancy thinking. So I've got 2 years. But Britton and I have already talked a lot about like what we would be doing differently, what I'm going to need to get to go through that again. But anyway, sorry. The whole point leading back is I knew all that, but I didn't know what happened in the OR. And so I asked her, I said, I need you to tell me what happened. Because I kind of got a little inkling that something had happened. Someone didn't, like, I heard it in the passing, and I was like, look, we're here now. Beau is on the way. He's getting ready to come out. I need you to tell me. And she said, she pulled up my chart, and then she's like, yeah, you did lose a lot of blood. At least here in the surgery alone, you lost 1 liter. Now, I don't know how much you lost in the rec center, in the ambulance, in the time before you came to the OR. Miraculously, like I said, I had basically been coherent the entire time, but there was a lot of blood loss, and I count that first as an amazing miracle in that whole moment. The second, of course, being that Beau is here through all that, because I think it was about an hour that he was in there. And what happens is when that blood is coming and rushing in between that placenta and the uterine wall, a lot of times baby's oxygen can be cut off. And so, thanks to my friend Mikkel, who you will be hearing from tomorrow, she had posted a little bit about her placenta abruption, and she had kind of explained that. So I knew that. And then also from what Dr. Dabbling had told me, but then I was like, okay, what happened to Beau when he came out then? And she like looked at the chart, and she like went back to his, went back to mine. And I could tell she was getting a little timid. And I just said, look, I do better with more information, believe it or not. If you leave me with room to fill in my own guesses and thoughts, it's usually not good. I need you to tell me. And so she said, when Beau was born, he was not responsive. And that was like the first time I finally was able to be like, okay, wow. And she explained that when babies are born, there is oh my gosh, I'm totally going to botch it, but there's a scale, a level scale, like I think it's 1 to 10 or 1 to 8. I'm telling you, pregnancy brain. And this is why I'm doing this podcast, so I can remember. But she said when he was born, I think he was a 1. And she said they do 5 minutes then before they test again. And during that 5 minutes, that's when he was being resuscitated. That's when they were doing whatever they can to help him move up the scale. And when they checked again in 5 minutes, he was to a 7. And that is obviously a huge miracle, a huge blessing. And I'm grateful that he has a chance to be here. And we still don't know, you guys. He's still super young, and there can still be very many effects from this. But just the fact that he's here and he's breathing is my biggest miracle. And whatever comes with that, we will take head on. And, you know, my friends who are going to come on this week, I get inspired by them, all that they're doing. And I know that there are so many other women out there who had to be put in this situation. So I know I'm not alone. I know Beau's not alone. And I'm just grateful that he was given the chance to come to Earth to do whatever it is he needs to do. So, yeah, that was a pretty big realization. But when we were able to take Beau home, he was eating from a bottle, but he was still on oxygen. And it's basically like, you know, the Owlet sensors, or those devices that help track oxygen and heart rate. That's basically what we had. It was just medical grade. We had the giant oxygen tanks. We had this huge, not huge, but it was a big screen of tracking the heart rate and oxygen. And oh my gosh, that little sensor would fall off his foot all the time. And it would just start beeping so bad. And you would be terrified that it was going to wake Beau up. But I had to remember, Beau got very used to hearing a lot of noise, a lot of beeping. Still to this day, the best thing that puts Beau to sleep is if I'm holding him and I'm talking, he goes just like that. Like, he does better with a little bit more noise. That's why we have the sound machine, but I usually have to chuck on a fan. And if I'm on the phone, it actually really helps him to fall asleep. Anyway, so I think he was on oxygen for about a month. And my pediatrician even said, you know what, you can start weaning him off. And we did that pretty quickly. I was done with the oxygen tank. But now he's great. Right now, like, he is 7 months. But developmentally, they are saying like, oh, he's just about 2.5, 3 months behind what he is technically, but that gap will shorten. And yeah, but you guys, when you look at him, like, he's a tiny little guy still. He's tall though. He's very tall. So when we go to his appointments, they do measure him for what his normal, like his technical ages. He's hitting on all the charts. He's definitely hitting for length. He's right there for head size. He was still a little underweight. So we do have to do like more concentrated formula recipes is what they call them. But we're crossing our fingers. His next appointment is the 4th of October. And I'm really, really hoping that he's on the chart, that he's charting for weight so that we can just go to normal formula or like the normal ratio. Because guys, we're going through it fast. Anyway, that is just a little bit of the birth story, a little bit of the background. But real quickly, I wanted to touch on something that I am starting because of this whole process. Like I said, when I was in the hospital and I didn't have those certain needed toiletries, I felt like it actually really could have helped, because that was the one thing I was doing. I was alone. I was just left with my new body is how I put it, because I've never had a major surgery other than wisdom teeth. So it was an actual scar that I would be seeing. I felt it just is different. It's a very different experience. And so the one thing I was needing was just something normal, something that I can control. And that for me has always been my hair care routine, my skincare routine. So even not being able to have those little things really, I felt took a big toll on me. And that's why when I told that nurse, like, no, I'm going to do this. And it wasn't until my friend Carolyn was in the hospital because she had to have her appendix removed all of a sudden. And she wasn't able to have her husband. I was texting with her and she was like, you know what I need? I just really wish I had a brush right now. And she didn't have it because she didn't know she was going to the hospital and had to stay there longer. And they still had COVID restrictions. So her husband wasn't able to come and bring her things. And that's when all of a sudden it ignited me, like, wait a minute, that's what I was going to do. That's what I was going to have those. I wanted to make toiletry bags for women who have to stay at the hospital unexpectedly. And I was just thinking mother and baby, like moms who have to give birth. But then my friend Carolyn just reminded me, no, it's other women that still have to go and stay there. So that's why I was like, that's it. I'm doing this. So I was going to do Utah Valley Hospital because that's where I've given birth. And that's where the issue I saw was needing this. So I called volunteer services and I talked with the lady and I said, here's the idea. I just want to put together a couple of little toiletry kits. Is that something that you guys have? Like, is that even needed? And she said, you know what, McKenna, it's so funny that something like that you think is so obvious We have never had that. And I know, especially she did say mother and baby, because that is obviously where it happens a lot. She said, but any other department, but especially mother and baby could use that so much. And I was like, all right, we're doing it. So just to get you started, get you started for the Christmas season, the next it's the end of September, so almost a little under 2.5 months, I am going to be trying to put together 150 toiletry kits to go and to drop off at Utah Valley Hospital to have for any women who might just need that, who just need to have something that they can control and feel like they can take care of themselves in situations otherwise that may have been not being able to do that, I guess I should say. So when this episode airs, I will be putting it out there. But basically what I'm going to do is for the toiletry kits, I'm going to try to just have very basic things. So I've got a little graphic that I made, but it's basically going to be like a mini makeup bag. I was thinking Ipsy size, but sometimes those Ipsy sizes are not big enough. Anyway, I just want like a travel size hairbrush, travel size shampoo and conditioner, travel size toothbrush and toothpaste, travel size deodorant, 1 or 2 like hair ties, ponytails, a travel size face moisturizer, and a travel size face wash, all in a little bag that they can just hand to a woman who might be in need of those things. And what I'm hoping to do is either, over the next 2.5 months, get donations of these items, obviously unused, unopened. Or what I'm hoping to do is I've got a couple of family members who are helping me with certain activities that we're going to try to do here in the Utah area. My sister Allie, who you all just heard on a recent episode last week, has her cookie dough business. She's going to try to do proceeds from that would be going towards building these kits. I've got a sister-in-law who is a high fitness instructor. She was talking about possibly doing some high fit classes, and any of the money from that would go to help building these kits. I'm recently a brand maker. So I was like, I know how to make some sourdough. Maybe I could sell those. And then I'm trying to work with my mother-in-law. She makes the best oatmeal pies, you guys. Like, that's what I asked for my birthday this year. Was not a cake, was an oatmeal pie. And I'm hoping that maybe either she can help make some, or she can just teach me how to make them. And we could sell some pies hopefully around November just to seal us off. But I'm sure there will be more. But to you out there who's ever listening, who would love to be a part of this, I'm hoping to drop these kits off around middle of December. And so we've got a lot of work to do. If I were just to go buy all these items, I was just doing a quick look, it's going to be close. Like if I didn't have anything donated, it's going to be around $1,500 plus. So I'm hoping with us giving enough time that we can either get enough items donated or be able to raise enough money to build those kits, and just to give back to something that I was definitely in need of. And I don't want any other woman to have to go through that. So if you're looking to get into the Christmas spirit just a little bit earlier, please, I will put out more information as it comes, but would definitely love to have you be a part of that. And I will for sure be giving updates on it as we go through. And then of course, the final day when we do the drop off, which will just be so awesome. If we can get over 150 kits, I will be floored, but that is the goal, is 150. I feel like that's a good amount to just have our goal. But alrighty, you guys, thank you so much. Day 3, we are done. And please, these are the next 2 days, Mikkel and September's episode. Oh my gosh, you have to listen. It's insane. Like, those 2 women I love so much, and they are just so inspirational, and I cannot wait for you to get to meet them. But until then, have a great day. I love you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.